Card Dealings podcast. It's a podcast about selling sports cards, and today it's a podcast about card shows. We are entering into the summertime, and there's going to be some vacations coming up. A lot of people travel in the summer. A lot of people travel to card shows in the summer. And if you're looking to get into a show this summer, maybe you're looking to set up or you're just looking to walk around, today I want to go over what are some of the red flags and green flags when it comes to a card show. Not necessarily the promoter, not necessarily the selection of cards at the show, but just the overall show. What are the red and green flags to pay attention to when you are getting ready to decide on what show you want to attend or what show you want to set up at? If you have any comments for this, would love to hear it on the YouTube side of things in the comments section down below, or you can always reach out privately in my inbox on any of my socials. But why don't we start with this? You're going to decide what show you want to go to. The first thing that you're probably going to be looking at is the promotion side of the show. And you're looking to find a show that is going to give you the most bang for your buck. If you are someone who is just going to walk a show, you are a buyer. What are you looking for? You're looking for quality dealers, and really you're probably looking for dealers that have things that appeal to you. You might not be able to determine that based on just seeing a show's promotion, but you might be able to have a general idea of whether or not it's going to be mostly focused around your time. Like, for example, there are shows like the Strongsville show. That is a primarily vintage show. There's a show here locally, the Moeller show. That is a primarily vintage show. Meaning if you go into these shows expecting to find a bunch of ultra modern, you are likely to be strongly disappointed. That does not make them good or bad shows by any stretch of the imagination. That just might mean that they're not the right show for you because the selection of cards is not what you sell. Likewise for dealers, the same type of thing. If you go to one of those aforementioned shows with ultra modern, that may be good because you might be one of the few people in the room with that stuff. But if there's people coming into the show looking strictly for vintage, then they are blowing past your table. And it probably means you're not going to have the best show. Again, doesn't mean it's a good show or a bad show. It just means it might not be the right show for you. For buyers, you want to have a wide selection of cards. So again, if it is more of a themed show, then you better make sure that that theme fits into what you are looking for. If it is a heavy Pokemon show and you go looking to buy sports, do not be disappointed when you walk out with nothing, because chances are you're not going to find too many sports there. If you're a dealer as well, you want to have willing buyers. You want to have people who are coming to spend money. They're coming up to your table willing to buy cards. And for both sides, you want to have your cost reasonable. We'll get more into costs a little bit later on and the factors that go involved into that for both buyers and sellers. But if we look at the promotion side of the show, let's start off with, where is this show being promoted? How is it being promoted? Typically, there are a few different sources out there. One of them is Facebook groups. In Ohio, we have a group that's called the Ohio Sports Card Show group. And nearly every show, with some exceptions, because of course there's only some drama, is posted in this group. So you can always see what's going on. And there is always someone who will post, hey, what shows are going on this weekend? They cannot be bothered to scroll down the page at all and see what shows are going on this weekend. So typically they'll ask what shows are going on in Cleveland, what shows are going on in Columbus, what shows are going on in Cincinnati. So you just have to find that post for wherever your area is, if you're in Ohio, or wherever your area is if you're in a different group. And chances are there will be replies that tell you kind of what you need to know, or like what shows are going on. And then you'll probably have to look in the group for a flyer. There is also some online sources. I believe there's one with Beckett where there is a card show finder. This is typically going to be your more well-established shows. So if there is a show that is being put on for the first time in a local high school gym, chances are it is not going to go on the radar and be posted on that site. But some of the more established ones that happen monthly with the promoters that have been in the game for a long time, they're going to be posted up on there. If you have a local shop in your area, chances are the shop may advertise some local shows. The promoters may have flyers. Most shops that I have been in my lifetime have had some kind of promotion for an upcoming show, whether it be a local monthly one or more of a regional larger scale one. I've seen both of them. It just kind of depends on the geography of where the show is in relation to the shop and what their relationship is with said shop owner. Shows can be posted out there and promoted to the nth degree. But the real question then becomes, what is going to be special about this show that brings people in the door? There are some shows, and it could just be that they only come around every so often, or the word of mouth about them makes them a must-attend show. And there's probably a few that come to your mind as soon as I say that. But if you're looking to make a show stand out as a promoter, or you're trying to see what it might be so special about this show as someone looking to set up or attend the show, you have to consider that. What is that wow factor that you have? There's a lot of different ways that this is accomplished. There are there are promoters who will offer door prizes. It could be, a lot of times it will be in the form of a shopping spree. You'll be given some sort of currency that is only good at that show. And that's a way for the promoters to also kind of give back to the dealers as well, right? It's encouraging the cash flow in the room. They're not just being handed a $100 bill where they can go take it to get a nice steak dinner later that night, right? That money is being spent in the room on cards. Happy customer, happy dealer, both alike when that type of thing happens. But I've seen various things from memorabilia to packs, boxes. I've seen some pretty cool door prizes over the years in my time going to card shows. There are also things that you can do to bring people in the door, like signers. And signers are not always easy. A lot of times it's going to require you going through an agent or knowing the right types of people. But maybe bringing someone in to sign autographs will drive traffic to your show. It could be the location of your show. I know that there are some times where people will work with bars or restaurants. So there is an opportunity to grab a bite to eat or grab a drink before, after, or during the show. And to some people that's appealing, especially maybe if you're coming along with someone who might not be into the cards as much, or if you're someone who has kids that want to go to a show, well, hey, you can have a drink or get a bite to eat while the kids go around the show floor. Kind of makes it for the best of both worlds. And also you may have some more outside traffic coming in. So someone who may just be there at that restaurant might say, hey, what's this going on? And they happen to stumble on the cards, and all of a sudden we have a new person into the hobby. Great stuff. Those are some of the things, and there's plenty more that you could do. But when someone is doing those things, whether or not they are actually successful, it shows that there is effort being put into the show. Does it mean that your show sucks if you do not have signers or giveaways or anything of the like? No, absolutely not. There are plenty of really solid shows that don't do a lot of these things because the shows really sell themselves, and that kind of goes into the prestige of the show. There are certain shows where the best dealers in the region are going to be there, and you know that ahead of time. There is shows, I'll go again, and when I'm doing this, I'm trying to only name shows in a positive light. I do not want to speak poorly on any show or promoter in a negative way, so when I give examples of specific promoters or shows, I'm only going to speak of them in the positive. But look at Strongsville that I just mentioned. There are going to be some really top-notch quality vintage dealers at that show all throughout really the Midwest region. They converge in Strongsville, Ohio once a year for this big vintage show. And for a lot of people, it becomes a destination show because of it. It has a strong prestige. I have friends that fly in from across the country to Strongsville to go to this show. If that doesn't say something, then I don't know what does. There's another example I'll give you. B Sports, Brad Beeman promoting Shipshewana Card Fest. He always advertises it as some of the best dealers in the Midwest. And yeah, there's some really good names on there. Just look at the sponsors of that show, and you'll be like, oh, dang, there is some really great vendors who are at that show. And there's a lot of guys, too, who you may not really even know their name. Maybe they don't have a big banner or a brand or anything, but they're really solid dealers that only come out for this type of show. And Brad's show is that good that it brings those people in. It has that prestige to it where people are willing to drive hours upon hours, myself included, to go to Amish country to attend this show. It's because Brad has built the prestige of that show, such as the promoters of Strongsville have promoted their show where it now has that prestige to it. Those are the types of things that can sometimes sell a show on its own without the promoter having to really do much else. You can also look at what the promoter has done otherwise, and I'll go back to Brad Beeman. He started last year the Grove City Card Fest in connection with Card Collector 2. One of the things that I think really helped this show get off the ground right away is that Brad has a phenomenal reputation in the show space. He's done Shipshawana for several years. He is in the Fort Wayne show. So when he was able to bring this quarterly show to Columbus, which is really a large city that doesn't have, or at least previously hadn't had too many very large multi-day shows that are kind of more local shows. And there's a lot of reasons for that I can talk about maybe later in this video if we have time or in a different podcast. But he was able to bring that, found an opportunity, was able to work with Ryan as well. And they've put on a fantastic show. Every time I've gone as a dealer, I have been very satisfied with how that show has played out. And I know it's going to be a good show because Brad's the one who puts it on. He's actually going to be doing a new show later this year. And I have no worries about it because I know that Brad and his team do a good job. And that does not concern me at all, as I would be concerned with a first-time show, maybe with a promoter that I don't know as well. But you can look at, there's a lot of really great promoters again. The gentleman with J&J, Jeff, he is a fantastic guy as well. He puts on the Midwest Monster, but he also has several local shows in Fishers, Indiana. He has one not too far away from where I live. He has one down in Louisville, Kentucky. Jeff's shows, he's got a group of people that will travel to his shows, and he's been doing it a long time. So usually when you do that, you build up a good clientele, not only of loyal customers who come to the show, but dealers who become extremely loyal, and they're at that show every single month. They don't miss it unless absolutely necessary. And anytime that he launches a new show, there's not as much concern as it would be with a first-time promoter because you know he's going to bring his people and you know he's going to run a show the way that he has in the past. And that is reassuring to someone who is looking to set up, and it should be reassuring to you too if you're looking to just go attend a show. You kind of know what to expect, and usually your expectation is going to be met. You can also see it for yourself, right? You can hear about it left, right, and center, but a lot of times shows are not being put on for the very first time, or if they are by experienced promoters, meaning you can go back and look at what this show has looked like in the past. If you're looking at maybe more local shows, I would say check the Facebook page for that show if it has one. Check the Facebook page for the promoter if they have one. Or if you're in a sports card show group on Facebook, then you can also look at the posts from there. Usually there's going to be pictures of the show. You might see people talking about the show in the comments, people asking, how was this show? And sometimes people are brutally honest, and that may save you a trip or may sway you one way or another to attend a different show. There's also videos. I myself make card show vlogs. Now, there are other vlogs that I think are put out that are much more informative than mine in a sense of what does the overall vibe of the show look like. Mine is a little bit more on the technical side of things, but I'll shout out a friend here, Neo Cards and Comics. When he does his Shipshawana vlog, he shows you what he picks up, but he also walks around the room, so he's showing you what it actually looks like on the show floor as he sees it. He's also showing you or telling you about the vibe, rather, of what's kind of going on at the show. All really great information if you're looking to attend yourself. You're kind of being able to almost be in his shoes, walk around that show, and see it for yourself. And you might see that and go like, huh, that actually looks pretty cool. I'm willing to drive X number of hours to Shipshewana to go check that out. And he's not the only one, and that's not the only show that they're out there for. Typically, you're going to see this again at these larger shows where there is more social media presence. But you can also get a lot from just seeing what people are saying and seeing posts on Facebook or Instagram of a card show. So look at that. Do your homework. Look at what kind of prestige this show has and see it for yourself if you don't just want to take the word of mouth of whoever may be telling you about the show. Let's talk about pricing. Pricing is pretty key, and this is probably more concerning to a dealer. As someone who largely sets up at shows, when I am looking to set up at a show, I have to factor in my overhead. What is my overhead? Well, there is going to be my transportation to the show. Am I flying or am I driving? What are the costs associated with each? If I am flying and I need to check a bag, that's going to cost some money. If I am flying and need a airfare, airplane ticket, that's going to cost some money. If I'm driving, I'm going to need to put gas in the car. That's going to cost some money. That's going to get me closer to where I need an oil change or a tire rotation or some kind of service on my car a little bit faster. I have to put those miles on my car. That's going to cost me money. Regardless of how I get there, once I get there, if it's a multi-day show, I'm going to need a place to sleep at night. So what kind of hotels are in the area and how much am I going to be spending on a room? What kind of room am I going to get? Am I going to be shacking it up next to some critters at a low budget hotel? I won't name names. You know what I'm talking about. Or am I going to be staying in a nice place where, I feel safe, it's nice and clean, and I know that it's going to make my experience for the show weekend that much more positive because I don't have to worry about things that you don't really want to worry about when you're traveling by staying at a less desirable hotel of sorts. And then once I get into the show, there is the matter of parking. Am I going to be able to park for free at the show? For food, do I need to bring my own food because there's no concessions? Am I given a voucher for concessions? Is the promoter buying food for me for setting up at the show? I've had all of those things happen before. And then what is going to be the cost of my table? How much does it take to get a space at this show? All those things I am weighing in to determine, is this even worth it? Because I need to sell X number of items to even just cover the cost of going to the show. And not only do I need to sell those items, they need to be profitable. You could say, oh, well, just sell $500 worth of cards and you're good. No. If I sell $500 worth of cards at a 20% margin, I'm about 20% of the way to covering my costs. I need to sell $2,500 worth of cards just to break even on the trip. That's not even before I get $1 to put back into the business or back in my pocket. So I'm going to take all those things into consideration, and show promoters, they're going to know that too. A lot of the really diligent ones will recommend to you places to stay. In fact, sometimes you may even see hotel blocks that are set up. It's really beneficial when those hotels are connected. For example, Culture Collision is one where the hotel, at least previously, I think they've changed venues now, but the hotel was connected right to the convention center, meaning that you never actually had to step outside on the day of the show. You just go down from your hotel room, you walk down a few hallways, and you're there. You're in the show. The Dallas card show is connected to a hotel. There's many card shows out there that are like that. I mean, I think even at the National, at the Stevens Convention Center, there are some skywalks that connect to some of the surrounding hotels in the area. They're limited, but they are there. So that is something else that you can take into consideration. If you're going to a show, some of the same things apply. If it's a little bit too costly to go to a show just to walk around and buy cards, then maybe that sends you away. Show admission is one that also sometimes people will talk about. Personally, I have never had to pay more than I have had to at the National, which I think, I don't know, maybe like $20 a day. I've had media badges in recent years, so I haven't had to really worry about that. But attending a show, I don't think I've ever had to pay more than $20 to walk into a show. But people become very snarky and pessimistic whenever there is some kind of show admission, even if it's $5. People feel like, okay, well, it better be worth it then. I mean, like, come on, guys, it's $5, really? That's just my opinion. Of course, a promoter should be trying to put on the best show possible, whether they are charging people admission or not. But to me, if a promoter needs to charge admission to help cover the cost of a venue, especially if it is a very pricey venue, I have no issue with that. I think it's perfectly reasonable to do so. In fact, a lot of times the proceeds from show admission does go towards something. There is a local church show in my area. It's $15 a table. All of the proceeds go to the church that it's held at. Every single table fee, all of it goes to the church. So that's kind of nice. And I've set up at that show once or twice. Do I do great at it? Not really, but when I have, I know at least that my $15 is going to a good cause. So I can definitely get behind that. There are some shows in the area where the proceeds, or at least part of them, will go towards the local high school if they're being held at a high school gym. So that kind of stuff is nice because you're kind of giving back in some sense, or the promoter is giving back in some sense, on top of probably whatever fee they are being charged to rent out the space. But to me, show admission probably isn't too large of an obstacle to going to a show, but it is something that is at least worth mentioning. I feel like it would be at a disservice to not mention that is certainly a cost. But yeah, as a dealer, the real deal breakers for me is if I am going to struggle to be able to source a meal, especially if you're expecting me to be at the show for 12 hours. You don't really have much for concessions, and the options or the accessibility for food delivery services, your DoorDashes, your Uber Eats, etc., are limited. You're not going to have a lot of happy dealers. Let me just put it that way, because people got to eat. We at the card shows, we like to eat, and if it's just me packing my own snacks, then I'm gonna have to pack really heavy for that. But I definitely like to be able to have that option present. Parking is a big one too. It is very frustrating to me to have to pay for parking, and there is only one time that I can think of where I've had to pay for parking to set up at a show. Now, there are times where you do have to pay, but I wouldn't necessarily count it. The time that I'm thinking of would be Culture Collision, but that is because I'm staying at the hotel where the show is being held, and the hotel charges for parking. So the show is not doing that. That's the hotel. That's completely different to me. But the show itself, if it requires you to come to a paid parking garage, or they are collecting money for parking, as a dealer, that to me is a red flag. That is something that I don't really like. I have had one show in particular I can think of where I had to do that. I was not a fan that I had to pay $25 for parking, and then have to still walk quite a ways just to get into the venue. The last one is perhaps the most important one. This is where I'll kind of go into more specific red and green flags. It's the logistics side of things. So this can be all-encompassing, but this is the odds and ends, and a lot of times these are the details that will really make or break a show experience. The first one I'll talk about is the show layout. How are the tables being set up in a way that, do the dealers themselves have enough space? I have been in spots where I'm up against a wall, where I have a charging outlet, I have enough space to set up all my stuff, I can have my banner up, I don't feel like I'm being crowded, and it is awesome. I absolutely love it. I feel like I'm not packed in like a can of sardines like I have been in other cases where the aisleways are very narrow. I don't even have space to put up my buying banner. I move my chair back and I'm bumping into the chair of the guy who has the table set up behind me. That's not fun when that's the case. So being able to have a show floor that is easy to navigate That's going to be challenging if it's a very well attended show. Like, for example, the National, no matter how wide the aisles may be, they're not going to be wide enough. There's going to be a lot of people. There's going to be people who stop in the middle of the aisle and start having a conversation like they're the only ones there in the building. It's going to happen, all right? It does not matter how hard the promoter tries. If a show has that much attendance, there is going to be some difficulty getting around. But there is definitely ways to help lessen the burden of flow of traffic within the building. That's something that is very important. I think it's also kind of a bonus if you are able to section certain types of dealers. So not Shipshawana, but Grove City Card Fest. A good example of this is that it is now expanded to 2 gyms. There is a primarily TCG gym and a primarily sports gym. And by that, I don't mean that it's mostly Pokemon stuff with some sports tables. I mean that the vendors there, what they sell is TCG. They may have a few sports cards, but their focus is TCG. Whereas the other gym, it's the opposite way, where they mostly have sports. Some guys might have a couple of Pokemon cards or something, but you're not going into that gym expecting to find Pokemon. And if you are, I would like to kindly point you to the other gym because you will have a lot more success there. If that's possible, I think that's neat. Is it possible in a lot of cases? No, probably not, because again, if you don't know who is setting up, unless you're really taking the time to vet the dealers and figure out what kind of cards they're bringing in order to make a layout that is that fluid, it's going to be tough. And then you also deal with last minute cancellations and people substituting in or people having a change in inventory. It's definitely a very volatile situation where that makes it very challenging to do. But I think if you can do it, it is beneficial for not only the dealers, but also the people walking the show, being able to find what they're looking for easier. Check-in for a show is really critical for dealers as well. Because usually I'm either carrying a bunch of stuff, I see people carrying a bunch of stuff, or I have my wagon with all my stuff stacked on it, and I am wheeling it in to a show. And sometimes I might have to park my car and then wheel it all the way up, or I put my car in the little waiting area and then wheel my stuff in, then go park the car and come back. It can depend show to show, but the check-in process to be able to get my table, pay for my table, and know what I need to know, have my badges and all that, that is going to be something that can really set the tone for a show. Because if I'm having to wait 45 minutes to check in, chances are I've probably already missed out on some of the action. So being able to have multiple people to check someone in, being able to know where people's tables are, not just send them on a wild goose chase to try to find their table. That is something, and again, I'll shout out Brad, and it sounds like all I'm doing is gloating about the Shipshawana show and the Grove City show, but it's because he does a really good job. Like I'm telling you all these things because this is really good stuff and things that I love as a dealer. So that's why I keep talking about him and his shows, and Brad's a great guy. I'm sure he's probably listening to this one. So shout out to Brad, but his check-in process is pretty smooth, right? He has several different lines. If you go to Shipshawana, I think he has 2 different lines. If you go to Grove City, and usually no matter how long the line is, I'm not waiting all that long to get checked in and to know where my table is. The floor space, I kind of touched on that already in terms of how the show layout goes, but also just being able to use the show floor space in the most optimal way. If you are going to have like a trade area, for example, then you do not want to have that too close to the dealers. If you're going to have autograph guests, you should probably have that in a separate area. I can give you one example. Again, I won't name names because this one's a negative experience. But I did a show a few years back where it was in a convention center, kind of like a breakout room almost. So it wasn't like a big open area. And there were autograph signers. And the autograph line wrapped around my table. And when someone sees that, the first thing they think of is, I'm not getting in there. So I was missing out on a lot of sales because my table was over there. And that to me is poor logistics. They didn't really plan for this line, and there was nobody there to correct it once it started happening. I had to tell like the promoter, like, hey, I'm not okay with this. Like I paid a couple $100s to set up at this show, and I can barely even access my own table. If I step aside to go to the restroom, I can't even get back in to this area because of the line for the autographs, and nobody's willing to come over here because people are just here to get autographs. I was able to get my table moved, to their credit, but it was just something that was definitely frustrating, that I lost a couple hours of the show when I paid for them and I didn't really feel like I had to do it. So making sure that if there's going to be things that are not necessarily card vendors, that could be autograph guests, concessions, like a kids area, a trade area, or maybe a corporate booth or something, that those things are contained, or there is at least some kind of plan or person to put a plan in place if the flow of traffic is disrupted for whatever reason. I'll end on the intangibles. This comes to the customer service side of things and the red and green flags with it. So if you see promoters that become very hostile, like in a Facebook group, like for example, I've seen people criticize shows, and there's a couple different ways to do it. You can take the high road and say, we appreciate your feedback, we'll take that into consideration. I've seen promoters do that. I've also seen them crash out, where they say, like, you don't know what you're talking about. I put all this work into this show. You clearly have never ran a show yourself. They cannot accept criticism. To me, if I see that, I am much less likely to set up at your show. And to me, also, if I see that as a customer, I don't want anything to do with your drama. I am just going to stay home, or I'm going to find a different show to go to. So how you handle the criticism, I think, is very important, especially if you are doing it in a public forum. And chances are, unless it's a one-on-one conversation, even then there's things such as screenshots, you probably are in a public forum. And I would definitely be advised on how you handle customers. There's also the unruly customers at shows, or unruly vendors at shows. If you have people who are causing a disturbance, maybe perhaps they are using vulgar or offensive language excessively, and it is disruptive to the show, then it probably prompts for grounds for removal of them. And how you respond to that situation can be very telling. I've seen it happen before, where people have been kicked out of shows, both for that, the vulgar language or obscene behavior, and then also for theft. If you catch someone stealing at a show, what's your policy on that? Are they going to be welcomed back? Is it a slap on the wrist? To me, if it's something that is kind of just brushed by the wayside and the show promoter doesn't really care about it, that to me is a red flag, because they're not standing up for their dealers or their customers who are walking around a show. There is also kind of the disputes with transactions involving maybe fraudulent cards or things of that nature, where promoters will have to choose how to step in. To me, it's a huge green flag if a promoter is walking around a show. I've seen it where promoters will walk around, hey, how you doing? As the show been going good. Jeff, Midwest Monster, he's walking around. He's making sure things are going well. Brad, Shipshawana, Brad at Grove City Card Fest, he's walking around. He's making sure that things are doing well. I've seen it at the Xenia show, the former promoter there. He had a lot of work to do. He had to walk around a lot to collect money for tables, because there's a lot of tables at that show. But he would always ask me, how's the show going and all that, just checking in, seeing how it's going and stuff. Taking pride in the show, both for customers and for dealers, but especially your dealers, because if you want your dealers to come back, you got to treat them right. And if you treat your dealers right, you have happy and good dealers, it will help bring your customers back as well. It's kind of a chain reaction type of thing. And then on top of that as well, looking at just kind of the overall quality of your show. What kind of people are you inviting to come set up there? Are you misleading people if you're advertising? If you know a show is going to be very heavy Pokemon and you're afraid it's going to scare away sports people, I will tell you this right now. You are going to piss them off a lot more if they drive all the way to your show just to find out that there's not much sports, as opposed to just telling them up front. If they're disappointed or they don't come, they might come to the next one, but they're probably not coming back again if you lie to them or you mislead them with how the show is actually set up. That's a logistical type of thing, and also kind of a customer service type of thing for how you handle it. To summarize all of this, green flags, a show that is being well promoted. The promoter is putting it out there. They have flyers, they have posts on social media. There is active advertising to bring people in the door and to bring in the best dealers possible for that show. Red flag, they're not doing those things. Green flag, they're doing the extra things to bring people in. You know, there's the possibility of autograph signers. There's the possibility of door prizes. They're taking the extra step. Even if it's not 100% effective, it shows that they're at least trying. That is really the big green flag, is that they are trying to offer things that will appeal to bring more customers in. Green flag, people talk about the show. People that you trust in the hobby say that it's a good show. These promoters have had successful shows in the past. The posts that you see, whether it's videos or just in text format about their previous shows, all say positive things. That's all green flags. The red flags, they're starting beefs in Facebook groups and starting drama. Green flags, the table fees are as reasonable as they can be. There is a thought process in place for parking, for food and drink, for show admission, and then just the logistical aspect of things, making sure that people get to where they need to be, making sure that the show floor is laid out in a way that is conducive to a healthy show market where people are actively buying, selling, and trading cards. And then the character aspect of it too. When conflict arises or things go south, and if you do shows for long enough, I'm sure there's going to be something at some point that doesn't go right. How do you respond to it? And that can say a lot as well. If you respond to it professionally with courtesy, that doesn't mean you have to bend to the will of whoever's upset. That's a green flag. Red flag is that you kind of give special or preferential treatment to your buddies, or perhaps you just let it go because, hey, you got your admission money already. Who really cares what happens after here? Again, would love to hear your red flags and green flags for card shows in the comments down below. But I'll wrap it up for me today. Greatly appreciate your time. I'll be sure to see you next week with some more content. Until then, though, take care, stay safe, be kind.